We have people fly in from all over the US, and a big part of that is TikTok as well as Instagram, but just social media in general has really elevated our practice, and that was never the intention. I never went with the intention of I want to try to be this big cosmetic dentist, but it just happened.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao, and I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you're listening or watching this episode. I always want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, for their support. And I also want to remind everybody about my event, which is only a few short months away. It is Supercharge Your Dental Practice, September 26th and 27th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You can go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and use the code RAVING, R-A-V-I-N-G, to save $100 on your registration, and also to see the 13 amazing speakers that are going to be on the stage giving you both business and marketing advice for your dental practice. Today's episode is all things cosmetic dentistry, and my guest is Tejas Patel. And we're going to be talking about things such as what are some trends he's seeing in cosmetic dentistry, how he went from 2 offices to 1 office and focused on a veneer practice. He's going to talk about some of the classes he's giving or offering, and he's going to talk about really where the direction of veneers is in the industry. So Tejas Patel, with over 20 years of experience, he's become one of the top cosmetic dentists in the United States. He completes hundreds of veneer units each month. Let me repeat that one more time. He completes hundreds of veneer units each month. Dr. Patel also has one of the biggest dental social media accounts with over 2 million followers on TikTok. Again, 2 million followers on TikTok. His practice is in Austin, Texas, is dedicated exclusively to cosmetic dentistry and porcelain veneers. With his veneer course, he is now teaching the same techniques that have helped him complete thousands of smile makeovers. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Tejas Patel. Tejas, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Well, I love I'm an internet guy. I call myself a key opinion leader. I don't call myself an influencer. I think there's a very distinct difference between the two. In your case, I think you're an influencer because you have such a big social media following with 2 million TikTok followers. That's unbelievable in my mind. So I want to ask you a couple questions related to that even though I don't think we planned for that.
Sure.
So to begin with, can you kind of just tell people or tell the viewers and listeners how you're helping dental practices nowadays?
Yeah, so I'm still an active cosmetic dentist, but I found a passion for teaching and helping other dentists learn cosmetic dentistry because in dental school, obviously, we don't get much, if any, training on cosmetic dentistry, and I saw there was a gap in the market and a gap in education and a gap in the results that dentists were trying to get. And so, dentists would reach out and be like, hey, how'd you do this case? I love your results. How'd you do it? So we were filming stuff for social media anyway. And I was like, well, maybe I could just actually use this to teach. And so I created some online courses for dentists to basically learn cosmetic dentistry, specifically porcelain veneers.
So is this only online learning? Is there a live component to it as well? Good.
Sure. At this point, I'm only doing online, and I do think in the future I will do some in-person courses. I'm just really focusing on the online at this moment.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, online courses are great. You record once and you put it on Evergreen and it just works. So that's great. That's great. So I want to go back to my original question. 2 million TikTok followers. Okay, that's hard to believe. I mean, you've obviously put a lot of work in there. Can you talk and kind of take us on a little journey? Because I can't fathom a dentist having 2 million TikTok followers. So can you talk about how you built that and really also the effect that's had on the way you kind of market and practice, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we were early adopters in TikTok. And so I probably posted my first TikTok in December of 2019. So if you imagine so I've been on this platform for, over 5 years. And so I had the idea that it was going to be a bigger platform. So I was like, let me spend some time to try to learn it. And so during the pandemic, when everything, was shut down, I actually utilized that time to learn what TikTok really was, because the assumption is that, oh, TikTok's just some kids dancing on an app. And when it actually is just a video-based social media platform. So just like Instagram was, predominantly photo-based, this was just the video component. So I decided to try to learn how to incorporate video into what we were doing at our office. And so we started off by recording like little bits of procedures or reveals, or we had all these little pieces of a patient's journey. And then I kind of had this like click where I was like, let me put it all together to build a story, right? And so it's not just like the before, it's like, hey, some of the during, procedure stuff, then it's like this reveal, then it's the after, and then it's them living their best life. And so we created this storyline. And so I started to realize that these procedure videos and then like these storyline videos started to kind of take off. And then, because like if you think about like Dr. Pimple Popper, who was doing, these satisfying videos. And so like for some reason, our videos were satisfying to some people. And so that, and then, being an early adopter, kind of doing video where this was like video that people weren't seeing, not used to seeing. And then I worked with a few influencers like early on, and then just like this snowball effect of what happened. And so, it was probably a year and a half where we got to like 1 million, but I was really active. Like I was posting, and still to this day, I probably post like every day to maybe twice a day. But like when I was very, very active to get to that to over 2 million, there was time I was posting 2 to 3 times a day, which it is a lot, but we had built in the system of like, hey, we're getting like small video clips anyway. And so we just translated that into like videos onto TikTok. But it's been a real interesting journey.
Well, that's really funny. You mentioned in the beginning, TikTok, when I first went on, I saw these dancing teenagers, and I'm like, this is not something I have any interest in. And my niece, who's now like 15 years old, she was filming TikToks when we were at her house. That's all I saw her doing was TikTok over TikTok. So I didn't even realize that it was that, now it has a much bigger effect, but it's still amazing that you just got very lucky that you were an early adopter. Yeah. COVID shut everything down and you used the time to learn the platform, and look where it is today. So I'm curious, what advantages do you feel that you have with 2 million followers? Are you monetizing that at all? Are you getting money from it from that perspective? Do you think people are going on there? I'm sure you track, so I'm sure you've gotten patients from being on TikTok and showing the results, the journey, a story. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. I'd say for a couple of years, I was paid as a TikTok creator through their creator fund. So, if we had videos that did well, I get and it wasn't a lot, but it's something different than I was used to getting paid for doing, right? So for a period in time, I was paid as a TikTok creator. And then the biggest impact it's had is just on my practice, because one, it's a blue ocean. There's not a lot of dentists. There's not a lot of cosmetic dentists out there. And then we're already positioned ourselves where we do a lot of videos where we're very transparent about the process, like we talked about, or even fees or what goes on. We're pretty transparent. And I feel like that has impacted my practice because it helps us build that relationship with our future patients or future clients. And we have people fly in from all over the US, and a big part of that is TikTok as well as Instagram, but just social media in general has really elevated our practice. And that was never the intention. I never went with the intention of I want to try to be this big cosmetic dentist, but it just happened because people would see our content, it would stand out, we're transparent, we're personable, we show good work. So all these things just kind of accumulated into people then reaching out to us and then doing virtual consultations, and where we really didn't put up a lot of barriers for people to reach out to start a conversation with us. And so it's really impacted my practice. I feel like Instagram and then TikTok generate I'd say word of mouth, Instagram, and TikTok is the highest to mid of what generates revenue in our practice.
That's really interesting. And I'll make one more comment about TikTok. This weekend, I got a call from a dentist locally here in Florida. He did not know I would live down here, but he's not far from me. And he was treating an influencer with 500,000 TikTok followers. And there was a situation, I think she had turned 26 from what I gather, and her insurance got turned off. She had to cancel their insurance, and she was involved with doing aligners. And because of that, she had a balance owed. And they wanted her to collect the balance, so she went on TikTok and ripped this office apart. And literally overnight, he got like 30 bad reviews because of the situation. So we're working our way around. So it could have, obviously, being that active on a social media platform or being involved in that social media platform could have somewhat of a negative effect in some cases. I just wanted to share, that literally just happened this weekend, and I spent some time talking him through how to deal with this type of crisis, because that's a totally different scenario when you've got that many people who you can reach with a simple video. So I want to switch gears now. I thank you for answering, because I'm fascinated by Instagram and social media like followings. There was a neighbor in my development here, and she had over 2 million Instagram followers. She was a model, and she had I think over 1 million TikToks, but she also has like an OnlyFans. So it's interesting what she's created in herself for such a young girl, where she's making millions of dollars through social media. So I think that's a really interesting concept. But so let's switch now to the cosmetic dentistry part of it. Can you share, because you're so involved in cosmetic dentistry only now, what are some trends you're seeing with cosmetic dentistry and where you see the future being in cosmetics?
Yeah. So I definitely feel like there's a swing towards more this undetectable era. That's a kind of a word thrown around in the world of facial plastics, plastic surgery, things like that, the undetectable. I feel like we're kind of entering that natural, which means it's always been here, right? This natural translucency, character, undetectable kind of work that people are opting for veneers. So I see a trend towards that. I would say coming out of the pandemic, coming out of Zoom life, people were going very bright, very kind of over the top with their veneers and what they were looking for. So I feel like that's kind of tapering down a lot, and it's more of like a natural enhancement, kind of like a refresh, a revitalized, a more youthful version of themselves. So I think that's kind of like the look that people are going for. And then in the future, I feel like as long as people want to look young, they're always going to want. I think veneers will always be an option on the table. Obviously, like whitening is going to grow and increase. Aligners the aligner business is increasing, but I think I read a stat saying that the cosmetic dentistry market is going to double in the next 10 years. So there's definitely just like any facial enhancements, med spas, plastic surgery, cosmetic procedures, with those trending upwards, like cosmetic dentistry is also going to trend upwards. And
I think the COVID shutdown really allowed that to happen, because we spent months on Zoom meetings looking at our smile, looking at our teeth, and I think that was a big crucial impact now we're 5 years out of it, if you believe it, and we're recording this in March, literally 5 years ago around this time the world shut down. So in the 5 years since, I think that has a massive impact on the industry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. That alone, with everyone just staring at themselves and now like everyone's staring at themselves like doing selfies or on FaceTime, so people are more present when, I have a CEO of a company, and she's like, I'm always on Zoom calls, and I can't see my teeth, or whatever the concern is, or my teeth are too dark or whatever. So that presence of us being more forward facing, especially like you mentioned, influencers, like, people who are on, there's businesses nowadays where people are just on camera a lot, and it could be part of their job, it could be part of their lifestyle, but being presentable with their smile is definitely an important asset nowadays.
Well, I agree with you 100%. So we had previously known each other. You were a Bird Eye client for many years, And then when Avi connected us for you to become a guest on my podcast, we talked about it, and I was, surprised to hear that you now have a solo practice dedicated to simply cosmetic dentistry. So going from a multi practice to a single practice, focused on a specific procedure, cosmetics. Can you talk about when you made the realization that that's what you wanted to do? Because there's obviously a lot of people, look, I made the opposite. I actually got out of dentistry. Not because I didn't love it, but I enjoyed something better. And I think you mentioned it, you started teaching. When you start teaching your colleagues and they give you some amazing feedback about what you've done to their practices, it kind of changes the way you think about things. And there's a very big high you get from that. And I never got that high in treating patients. You know what I mean? So I'm curious, when did you realize that you wanted to focus on just cosmetics, and kind of talk about the transition from two businesses to one?
Yeah. So I feel like I've always had an interest in cosmetics, and there was always a portion of my practice, right? Be it one location, two locations. And so it was always a smaller percentage than I would like. Because starting out, I had like a big base general family practice. And then I grew that into two locations, and that's when we kind of met. And then running two locations and having associates and, large group of team members and multiple hygiene columns, all that stuff was just for me, it was like a formula for burnout. And I just kind of hit this wall. It was probably like 7 or 8 years ago, where I was just burnt out. I was just always complaining about work, always trying to put out, there's always a fire to put out. And I wasn't doing I was doing a lot of dentistry. I was doing a little bit of everything, and my passion was cosmetic dentistry, and I had the two offices, and I just came to the realization, like, for me to get to where I wanted to, I'm going to have to delete or eliminate a lot of things to get to like my end goal. And that was to be having a small boutique office, no insurance, one location, me as the solo doctor, and a small team. And so it took me a few years to like get off insurance plans and make that transition. But I kind of just had that end in mind, and I just kind of held on to that as my why to kind of get me through that. But it definitely took a couple of years to get there. But it's always what I've kind of truly found myself wanting. I'm kind of a personality. I do better in like smaller groups and things like that. I'm not a huge like entrepreneur. I don't need like 10 offices and and things like that. Things just kind of fit my personality with this kind of design of a practice.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's a huge change. Some of the benefits, obviously, you're focused on a single procedure or multiple procedures, but focused on one goal. So it's the cosmetic side of things. So just to be clear, cosmetic dentistry, obviously you're doing veneers, porcelain veneers. What else are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
So, I mean, we do a lot of restorative, so it could be mostly, involved into the anterior section. So a lot of it is porcelain veneers. Sometimes it's porcelain crowns. Maybe it's restoring implant restorations. It's a lot of fixed prosthetics. I don't do like hybrids or all-on-4s or anything like that. So it's just kind of like I guess if you had to technically put it into a category, it'd be like a heavy restorative practice.
Got it. And no aligners either.
No aligners. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, because that's a cosmetic. I mean, I know a lot of cosmetic dentists do that. So
yeah.
Got it. So you have a relationship with an orthodontist who does your aligners for you?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. I just wanted to clarify for people wondering exactly what you do. But so again, I started to say the biggest advantage I see is you're focused on one thing, which is cosmetics. But as you said, you have less staff to deal with. You have less. How many employees do you have right now?
It's just me and 3 team members.
And then what did you have prior?
When I had 2 offices, I had like 12, 13 team members and multiple associates.
Yeah. So, I mean, it changes the dynamics completely. So, I mean, that's awesome. So, how difficult was it to make that transition from 2 with multiple associates, 12 team members, to you and 3 team members running a cosmetic practice?
I mean, it was challenging because, we had kind of built up this machine, right? And so what was one of the biggest things that helped us was as we dropped insurances, we saw the attrition, right? We saw patients leaving, or patients, being disappointed in the sense that we're no longer on their insurance plan. They're like, we'll find somewhere else. But it actually kind of helped us in a way. Obviously in the moment you're like, oh my God, like, this is not good. They're not staying aboard. But, as insurance is left, patients left, as the volume decreased, then team members sometimes naturally left, or as I sold a practice, it's almost like, hey, we're just consolidating, And so I felt like there was a lot of consolidation in that time period that was challenging, because as dentists, like I'm a people pleaser, and so it's just like, a struggle in that sense of like feeling like you're disappointing someone or things like that. But ultimately, looking back, I'm like, man, I probably could have done it sooner maybe, but I'm thankful for the journey I've been on.
I mean, that's great. I think that's awesome that you made this transition. You feel good. You're happy with the way things turned out. So can you kind of share what your typical like day or week looks like, and kind of when you have this type of practice?
Yeah. So I see patients 3 days a week, and then so that's Tuesday through Thursday. Mondays are usually like content days, or doing cool things like being on podcasts, content. Kind of just like looking over everything. And then on Fridays, I do a lot of the admin work. And so Mondays and Fridays are kind of like my bookend days that I work on, admin, marketing ideas, content. We talked about the education company, the online courses, so kind of like my Mondays and Fridays are kind of reserved for that. And then Tuesday through Thursdays, seeing patients. And
I wanted to ask one other question about you. Do you not offer hygiene at all, or do you?
We do not. We refer out for hygiene.
Okay, so it's very much you have a relationship with some practice that's going to support the, and keep an eye on the work that you're doing. Because I'm assuming in this case that once the patients are done, they don't come back and see you again once you release them.
Correct. Yeah. So we have a relationship with multiple like general dentists in our area. One was actually one of the old associates I used to employ. He actually has his own practice, and we send a lot of people there, and they love it. They keep an eye on our work, and if there's any issues, they're sent back, and then we can take care of that if they need.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to talk to you about kind of the courses that you're offering. The goal of them, obviously it's not live based yet, as we talked about in the beginning. So what is the reason that you feel someone should take one of your classes? What are they expected to learn? How long are the classes? Kind of give out like a little overview of that stuff now.
Sure. So the main course, I'm focusing on one course right now. It's called the Veneer Blueprint Course. And it basically teaches someone to like learn porcelain veneers from A to Z. So I go over case selection, treatment planning, smile design, preparation techniques, reduction requirements, materials, labs. We actually have live footage of the procedure so they can actually see the steps I actually follow in my office. And then we get into like complications and troubleshooting. And then I go over marketing, photography, social media, how to sell cases, and things like that. So it's pretty comprehensive, and it's meant to help either, it could be for someone young who's maybe out of school, it could be an associate who's wanting to add their production to their office, it could be a seasoned doctor who just wants to do more cases. But there's actually tons of like case reviews within that course where I go over like live cases that I've treated at my office. But it's pretty comprehensive, and the goal is to help dentists get more confident in doing veneers, understanding the process, and ultimately selling or closing more veneer cases, hopefully to help them grow as a dentist.
How much do you focus on the social media aspect of where you stand now, and do you talk about how to get on a social media platform, gain followers, interact with them? Is that something that you cover, or it's more strictly on the veneer side of things?
I'd say it's probably 80% veneer kind of focused and 20% of it's like marketing, but I do cover it. I've been to seminars before when they're like, hey, we'll cover the marketing, and then they never get to it, and it's really like disappointing, but I definitely covered it. I feel like I've taken years of experience and really consolidated it to like only hit the highlights, but within like a 20-minute, 30-minute segment, I'm sharing like photography. I'm sharing like the lighting system. I'm sharing like all the stuff I use to capture, video or photos, and then telling people how to use that stuff.
Got it. And how long does it take someone to normally go through the online course?
So it's accredited for 8 CE hours. Yeah, so about 8 hours.
8 hours, okay. And
it's self-paced. Yeah.
Self-paced. And if somebody has a question when they buy it, do they have access to you via email? What's the follow-up that they can have in case they watch it and have some questions for you?
Yeah, so if they have questions, they're able to make comments underneath each like lecture video, and then I can respond to those comments.
Got it. And you said the future plan. Is there any plans in the future to enhance? Is there other courses coming? What's the expectation there?
I really would love to build out like the online. I'd really love to build out like our education company as like the go-to resource for online education for cosmetic dentistry. And so like future for me is really trying to build out courses around like say this, so if this is a level 1, I'd love to build out a level 2 course or a level 3 course. And then within this Veneer Blueprint course, I'm teaching people like how to do 8-unit veneer cases, but there's people who need to learn how to or want to learn how to do 2 or 4-unit cases, so this is kind of in the middle. So I see like there's growth either direction through providing online courses, and a lot of what we do or what I've done is doing things like TikTok. I've been in areas where a lot of people are like, oh well, like good luck with that, right? And then I know we're so used to like in-person courses, but I'm like, I know online courses are going to be a great asset for a lot of people. So they don't have to take off time at work. They don't have to travel. They don't have to like, add extra expenses to learning. And I really feel like there's a place for us to position ourselves as like the go-to person in online. So that's kind of like been my focus. Like I don't try to focus on you can tell like with my practice, I don't focus on like 10 different procedures, and like in my life I don't focus on like 10 different like ideas to make businesses around. I just like try to get really good at the ones I'm at.
Well, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, I understand that myself. The other question I was going to ask you was, if you had somebody reach out to you and said, why should I take this class? Mm-hmm. What would you say the biggest takeaway is going to be from someone taking the class that you're offering?
I think just to honestly like improve their veneer game, but then also to like learn the systems, and like we have checklists. Like there's a whole process I follow when I do my veneer cases, and just being able to be exposed to that, I think is incredible, because there's a lot of different ways to do it, but there's a lot of great ways to do it consistently and to get consistent results by following like a framework. And I think that's the biggest like selling point, I guess, of the course, is like I'm actually sharing this framework that I've used for the past 10 plus years doing veneers, where I've really dialed it in to hopefully minimize like error, to minimize revisions, to minimize remakes and things like that.
No, that's great. The last question I have for you: have you prepared like a resource guide for them, so they know, hey, these are the burrs I use. This is the photography equipment I use. These are the labs I use. Is there something in there that they have easy access to? Because I'm all about like there's Oprah's favorites. Well, this is your favorites.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So that's like one thing I was like super excited about with this course is like we have like downloadable PDF checklists and like diagrams of like no prep and like prep and like veneer reduction and the burrs that I use, and like, yeah, so there's a lot of resources within, even just like from a treatment planning perspective, like our financial arrangements to our consent form, so there's a ton of like resources within the course to hopefully like help them like get started on the right foot. Got it.
Is there anything that we have not discussed yet for the content portion that you wanted to add?
I think we've covered it all.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of content there, so that was good. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to switch to our lightning round Q&A. As I told you before we started recording, I'm going to ask you about 8 to 10 questions. These are to be answered pretty quickly. They're all business-related questions. So First question, how do you capture and keep track of ideas? Do you have a notebook? Do you do voice memos? What's your way you keep track of ideas?
Notebook.
Notebook. Okay. What would you say are the top 3 skills needed for someone to become a successful entrepreneur?
Read a lot, listen a lot, and understand sales and marketing.
Okay. What habits have helped make you successful?
Exercise, being yoga, daily walks, meditation, journaling.
So you mentioned daily walks. I'm digressing for a second. So how far do you walk, or like on a daily basis?
So I have 2 dogs, and so I just naturally walk with them. So we probably walk about 30 to 40 minutes a day, but I always enjoy walking. I used to be a big like running guy, but walking is actually just a great way to just relax my mind.
Well, since November, and we're recording in March, I walk almost a 5K every single day now. I've lost 40 pounds because of it. So that's why when you mention the walking, I go out every day and I walk outside. I live in South Florida, so it's easy. So so that's why I wanted to bring that up. So all right, back on task here. How do you define success?
Joy in what you do. And I guess you could say, like, working with the people that you like, doing what you want to be doing, and just being happy inside and living the life that you envision for yourself and not living someone else's life. That's great.
That's great. Who has been your greatest inspiration?
Man, a lot of people. I'd say my parents. My parents are. I would say my wife has definitely helped me a lot in believing in myself and believing what I could be able and capable of doing. And I'd say my parents for just the hard work that they've done themselves, but they also instilled in me.
That's great. What was the one thing you wanted to be when you were a kid, when you grew up?
A teacher.
Okay, a lot of people say teacher.
Yeah.
What book have you read multiple times, or what is your favorite book?
Essentialism is one of my favorites, and that's just really, or the one thing, both of those are kind of like along those same lines of like really, really distilling down what's important and focusing on that.
All right, this is a tough question. Let's see how good you are, because you've been great at everything else. If you can open up a lemonade stand tomorrow, what would you call your lemonade stand?
Oh, what the? Oh, man. I would say something like, I would say play on the when life gives you lemons, that kind of,
Got to make lemonade or something.
Yeah,
all right. 2 questions left. Do you have a favorite business podcast?
Well, I wouldn't say this is, well, I guess it could be kind of business. I've been really liking the Mel Robbins podcast. I think she does a great job, and she covers so many topics.
Got it. Last question. I ask everybody this question. It's always the last one. What is one subscription? It could be either business or personal. Subscription that something you pay for on a monthly basis or an annual basis that you cannot live without.
I'd say Headspace. It's a meditation app.
I haven't heard that one. That's the first for that. So that's good. That's good. So tell people where they can find more information about your veneer class, and if you want to offer pricing, just let everybody know where they can find it, and if they have any questions, how they can reach out to you.
Sure. So my main Instagram handle is at Tejas Patel DDS. My Instagram handle for my veneer courses is at Veneer Training. And if they're interested in the courses, they can go to drtejaspatel.podia.com and find out more about the course and pricing and course outline and all those things.
Got it. Well, this was awesome. I really appreciate you joining me today. There was a lot of great information shared. I hope you as listeners or viewers really appreciated it. If you think that you would be interested in what Tejas has to offer, go check out his website, and you can learn more about the class he offers and what's involved and the costs involved. And hopefully you go sign up, and it changes your direct trajectory in your dental career, allows you to be more comfortable with veneers, and then also hopefully learn to do some social media like he did, because that's unbelievable how many he has. 2 million followers now. That's crazy. But if you like the episode, please share it, review us, like us, subscribe to the episode, tell your friends about it. Reach out to Tejas with comments about the episode. Don't forget my sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the doc sites. Go check them out as well. my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice. Go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and use the code RAVING, RAVING, to save $100 on your already reduced registration. And as I end every single one of my episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next time, Tejas, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.